So I have my makeup right here. I have my mirror in front of me, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do my makeup and kind of tell you the story about my daughter. Right now I'm just putting on the Lawless Forget the Filler overnight lip mask. But so not a lot of people know about the story of my daughter. I didn't really tell a lot of people. I was in nursing school at the time, so I just had so much going on. I'm gonna put on this primer. It's the One Size Secure the Blur primer. When we found out with my second son that we were pregnant with another boy, we had said that if we have 3 boys, that we would be done having kids. Well, I never expected to have 3 boys. So when we found out that the third one, my son Paul, was a boy, I was shocked. I mean, definitely shocked, disappointed, not because he was a boy, but just disappointed because we had told each other, me and my husband, that if our third baby ended up being a boy, that we wouldn't have any more kids. And so to me, I just didn't really feel completely done having kids at the time. I kind of felt like someone was telling me, you're done having kids, even though, you know, we both agreed on it. But like I said, I never expected our third baby to be a boy. So I thought it would be on my own terms when we would be done having kids. So there's that. Now moving forward, I was 30, how old was I? I was 31. I guess I had just turned 31. And whatever baby bug hit me, I decided, let's just give it one more go. I don't feel like I'm done having kids yet. Let's just have one more baby, and then we can go ahead and close that chapter. I'm doing the Bye Bye foundation. And so I said, let's just try. We'll honestly try for 1 month because I want to be done having kids by the time I'm 32. That was just my number, and by some miracle, we ended up getting pregnant the very first month that we had tried to get pregnant. And so I told my husband, and we decided that we were not going to find out the gender of this baby. With my first son, Luke, we did not find out the baby's gender, and we let it be a surprise to us. And so once again, I knew this was our last baby for sure this time. So I thought, let's just go ahead and do that again. I mean, we already have 3 boys. So if we have another boy, we already have everything. And if it just somehow turns out that it is a girl, well then, you know, great. And we can go buy all the things that we need. But either way, let's just not find out. So we didn't find out. And then I went to my 20-week appointment, but the anatomy scan, but they had actually scheduled that appointment. I think 19 weeks, and I always measure small with every baby. If I go in and I'm like 19 weeks and let's say 4 days, I usually measure at 19 weeks. I'm always a couple days off. So when I went in, I was 19 weeks and I don't remember exactly how many days. So she had did the scan and then she had told me that they weren't able to see the baby's heart chambers, all 4 of them, in order to get the pictures. She said because I was 19 weeks, that's totally common. For whatever reason, they've been scheduling people earlier to go in for their 20-week anatomy scan, and, you know, not to be worried about it because I'm just measuring smaller. So I think, come to find out, when I went in at 19 weeks and I don't know, 4 days or something, I think I was measuring like 18 weeks and maybe 5 days. I honestly don't remember, but the baby was, of course, measuring a lot smaller than, you know, 20 weeks. So because of that, she wasn't able to see the heart chambers. So not a big deal. I waited a week or two, I think, and then I went in, and then they were able to get all the pictures that they needed, and they did more measurements, and they were able to see all 4 heart chambers. So that was great. But of course, with the sonographers or the people who do the ultrasound, they can't really tell you any results or interpret any of the ultrasounds. That's not their job. That is, you know, of course, the doctor's job. So I had to wait for the doctor to call me. But I had just asked her, you know, did you see everything that you needed to see? And she said yes. Actually, rewind. So when I went in for my first anatomy scan, I was talking to the lady. She asked how many kids I had and like what the genders were. I told her we weren't finding out the gender. She asked if I had any guesses. Of course, I hoped that it might be a girl, but I really had no feeling either way. I did tell her though that my son Luke, he's my oldest, he actually told me that he had a dream that he was sitting in the car looking at his baby sister in her car seat, and she had like her hair all up in a little bun, and she looked like Tinkerbell. At the time, he was really into like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. So he said that in his dream he had a baby sister, and he was staring at her in her car seat, and you know, she was looking at him smiling. So I told the ultrasound technician that my son is the one who had a dream, that I didn't have a dream. She had told me that all of these stories about other kids who have had dreams about their siblings' gender, and they turned out to be right. And so that made me like excited, but also like, why would she tell me that? Because then I'm thinking, you know, is it going to be a girl? So like, I want to know, is it going to be a girl? But then I'm also thinking, now I'm going to go through this pregnancy thinking maybe it's a girl, and if it's a boy, I'm going to be disappointed. Not because it's a boy, but just, you know, she put that idea in my head that, you know, it might be a girl. So, and she had just said, you know, that the kids are usually something about it that they end up being right. And so I was just like, wow, that's, you know, so crazy. And of course, like, that would be really cool if it ended up being a girl. So anyways, that anatomy scan happened, and then I had the second one. The doctor called me, and that's when they had told me that the baby, at the time, I didn't know if it was a girl or a boy, that the baby was measuring, I think, in the 8th percentile. And to me, I didn't know what that meant. You know, I'm a small person. I've always had smaller babies, and like I said, they've always measured maybe like 3-4 days behind, but that has always been like the max that they have been measuring behind. So when they had told me that the baby was measuring kind of small in the 8th percentile, you know, I really didn't know what to think. At that point, I just thought, okay, so they're just going to wait it out. They've seen the heart chambers. Everything seems to be fine. But I guess not, because at that point I was referred to a high-risk OB, which was absolutely crazy for me because, you know, I just think my baby's just small. What's the big deal? So at that point, I went to that high-risk appointment. I think that was probably 2 weeks later, and come to find out, yes, the baby was measuring small. I believe the arms and legs were measuring small. The abdomen was kind of okay. I think the head was also measuring small. So everything was, gosh, at that time, like a decent week and a half off, maybe even 2 weeks off. That's how small that the baby was measuring at the time. And I was just so confused. I'm just like, what, you know, what do you mean the baby's measuring small? Like, what does that mean for me? What does that mean moving forward? And so, of course, right away they labeled the baby IUGR, which is Intrauterine Growth Restriction, which means that the baby is below the 10th percentile for, everything. So once that happened, they told me that I would be going to NSTs, which are non-stress tests, twice a week. I would be going to these appointments twice a week, every week from here until the end of my pregnancy. And like I said, at that time, I was, let's say, 25 weeks. So I was going to be going to 2 NSTs every week from now moving forward. And then I would be seeing my high-risk OB once a week, every other week. They would be doing growth scans 1 week, and then the following week they would skip the growth scan and they would do the blood flow test, which is checking the umbilical cord to make sure that there's enough blood flow oxygen going to the baby. So with that being said, I was going to 3 appointments every single week on top of being, I don't know if you can hear that, someone's car alarm's going off, but I'll be going to 3 different appointments every single week on top of being in an accelerated nursing program, on top of having 3 kids, on top of, my husband being at work. I think at the time he was even not around. I think he was at a training in Virginia. And so I'm finding out all of this information, it's just so much. And I remember at that appointment, they had mentioned if I wanted to do the amniocentesis, I could, but because I was so far along, the next week would be my cutoff to have a medically induced, and so of course, regardless, wasn't going to do that. Well, I don't say of course, but for me, of course, I wasn't going to do that. So absolutely no reason to have an amniocentesis. I know that there are risks associated with it, and to me, either way, I wasn't going to do that. And so they did send me to at least do some more blood work to see if there was anything else that could be causing the baby to be so small. Okay, and then so they had mentioned dwarfism, maybe it was a skeletal dysplasia, I think it was. They had mentioned that the baby had a small nose bone, so then I'm thinking, could the baby have Down syndrome? And I'm just thinking all of these thoughts because they're giving me so much information, and of course they're not telling me one way or another. They're just dumping all this information on me, and I'm in panic mode, and so I'm just absorbing all of it, and I don't really know what questions to ask. All I'm thinking is, okay, the baby's getting blood. He or she is kind of growing. It grew from the last appointment that we had, and so that's all I can really go off of, and I don't know, just hope for the best and we'll just move forward. And so I was given all of that information, and so like I said, from that point on, I was going to 3 appointments every single week on top of being in nursing school, on top of life, being a mom to other kids, and oh my gosh, it was a lot. At the doctor, I asked them, what can I do to make the baby gain weight? They said that there's really nothing I can do. I could increase my protein and, that wouldn't hurt. But to me, she didn't really say that would help. So I just didn't know what to do. There's another thing. My first son, he was a C-section. The 2 babies after that, I had VBACs, which are vaginal births after C-sections. And so I was planning, of course, for this last one to also be a VBAC. But what I really wanted was an unmedicated vaginal birth, because that's what I originally wanted with my first son, and I never got. I knew this was my last baby, so I was dead set that this is what I want to do. And so the doctor said, let's hope that we can get the baby to 38 weeks, which to me, like, what do you mean, let's hope? So that was just so scary to me. And so I hopped on this message board, and a lot of people, you know, did say that at 38 weeks they were induced, sometimes 37. Some of their babies just ended up coming early on their own. And so I'm, you know, scared that I'm going to have a preterm baby and he or she is just going to come out and just be absolutely tiny. And, you know, and then the baby would be in the NICU, and, you know, I'm of course like spiraling because I'm in nursing school, and what am I going to do? I'm about to graduate. You know, I'm going to have to drop out, you know, just everything. I'm thinking about seriously everything. And so, I don't know what I'm doing. So then I'm just thinking about like, what's going to happen? What am I going to do? Like, this is crazy. I've never been in this type of situation before, but, you know, here I am. So I continue to go to all of my scans, all of my NSTs, and, you know, the heart rate is fine every time. The baby's numbers are fluctuating with the different growth scans that I'm having, and, you know, sometimes the weight or the overall percentage goes up a little bit. Sometimes it goes down at, I don't remember exactly how many weeks, but at one point I think the baby was like at the 3rd percentile, the 4th percentile. And mind you, like I'm eating normal. I'm eating the same as I ate with every other pregnancy. I think I was even eating more, because when I started this pregnancy, I was working out and I was trying to be more consistent with this pregnancy since I wasn't with the others. And so I'm like eating more. But once I find this out, I'm like scared to work out at this point. I don't want to lose any weight. Not that the goal when I was working out was to lose weight, but, you know, like I stopped walking on the treadmill every day just because, like I said, I don't want to lose weight. I'm scared to kind of do anything that would deplete the baby of any nutrients that I'm giving my body. So I stopped working out. I was on these messaging boards asking people what they did. One person said that they like big time increased their protein. So I went and I bought a bunch of protein shakes. I bought a bunch of like protein bars. So I was just consuming so much protein to try to do anything I could to put weight on this baby. Just nothing was working, and it just didn't make sense because I wasn't gaining any weight at all. I think I even lost some weight in the beginning, and it was just so frustrating because I'm growing a baby. I'm supposed to be putting on weight. The baby is supposed to be growing, and it's not happening. And I'm eating so much, or I felt like I was eating so much, and it's not doing anything. It's not affecting anything, and it was just so defeating to not really have control of the situation, to try to do everything right that I could, you know, taking my vitamins. I think I was trying to take collagen. Like, I was just looking up any supplementation that I could that would help me gain weight and help this baby grow, but just nothing. They continued to talk about, you know, inducing me, and I didn't want that. I wanted to like wait as long as I could. One of my doctors seemed to be okay with waiting to get induced. Another one was just like, no, 38 weeks is a cutoff and you need to be induced because that's what's best. Which to me just didn't make sense because the baby continued to grow, not like monumentally each time I went in for a scan, but the blood flow was always great. I always knew that the baby was getting blood, the baby was getting oxygen. The NSTs were always perfect. You know, everything that needed to be there was there. And so then at one point, you know, they were telling me about the overall percentage of the baby. I think at one point I probably maybe got up to like 6th percentile for everything. And so percentiles are always like overall. They measure the head circumference, the abdomen, the femur, tibia, just a bunch of different measurements of the baby. They put that all together and it spits out, you know, the overall baby's percentile. And so it takes everything into account. And so they continued to tell me that the baby had short arms and legs, but the abdomen was like roughly measuring around pretty normal. And so I'm aware that ultrasounds are not 100% accurate all the time. You know, I've had them tell me before what the baby would be weighing when I gave birth, and that was never the case. Not that it was off by a lot, but it just, you know, it's not an exact measurement of things. At one appointment, I had asked them, okay, so let's say we take out the arms and the legs. What is the baby's percentage? And once we took out the arms and the legs, you know, the percentage went up. And so to me, it was just so frustrating to continue to hear that the baby is IUGR. The baby is measuring, you know, 2 weeks behind. But then when you don't account for the arms and legs, which I'm thinking, you know, like I'm short, so I probably have short arms and legs, you know? But so when you don't account for those things, the baby's overall percentage goes up. And so that was like the frustrating part, because it's like, what if the baby is just, you know, short? I'm short. What if the baby is just short and everything else is fine? They have to like err on the side of caution, which I understand. Like, you don't want to tell someone, oh yeah, your baby's perfectly fine, and then come to find out, you know, that's not the case, and you gave this person false hope, and now, you know, they hate you because you told them that their baby was going to be fine, and that's not what happened. So I get it. So then moving forward, they kind of just continued to say, let's hope we get the baby to 38 weeks. Well, I made it to 37 weeks, and they wanted me to schedule my induction for 38 weeks, which I did not want. I said I would just keep going as long as the scans are fine. So they let me go ahead and do that. I went to 38 weeks. At that point, one of the doctors that was very pushy continued to tell me, you know, I needed to schedule an induction. But then I talked to another doctor, and they told me if I feel, you know, that I know my body best and I can feel the baby moving, and, you know, if I feel comfortable continuing on with this pregnancy, then I could go ahead and do that. And I did feel comfortable. I felt the baby moving all of the time. All of the tests all came back negative. There was just no sign that there was anything wrong with this baby. Well, then I had a test, and they weren't able to see the baby's, one of the baby's bowels. It looked like it was obstructed. And so they said the next time I come in that they would go ahead and look at that again. And so for that, I, of course, you know, did my research. And with the bowel obstruction, if the baby's, because the baby's abdomen was a little bit larger, and so they looked, and there was a bowel obstruction, or what they thought there was. And so with that, if the baby was born with a bowel obstruction, that they would have to do surgery, which of course meant NICU time. And all of this was just extremely stressful. On top of being in nursing school, taking tests, you know, towards the end of my program, when everything, and I mean everything, is just hitting you. You're taking all of these exams, you're studying in order to take your NCLEX. You know, I'm doing all of these skills validations. I'm doing, you know, literally thousands of questions a day in order to stay on top of my assignments. Also taking care of the kids, and just being a mom, being a normal person outside of all of this, which was extremely hard to have to deal with all together. And so, you know, now I'm thinking, okay, well, now this baby might have a bowel obstruction, you know, now what? And so, like I said before, and so I'm telling my husband all of this, and of course he's being extremely supportive, and he's, you know, telling me that regardless of what it is, we're going to make it work. You know, he'll find out a way to, you know, whatever, just be there for me, and figure out whatever it is that we need to figure out. And so then I went in, and come to find out the bowel obstruction had resolved itself, and everything was fine again. Well, for the most part. And so, like I said, I had reached my 38-week time frame. I told them that they can go ahead and do a membrane sweep, but that I don't want to be induced, that I'm, you know, going to push it out as far as I can, because I was induced with my first son and ended up in a C-section, and so I just don't want to do that again. But of course, you know, if absolutely necessary, yes, I would. But because I wasn't getting enough information from them to really push me in either direction, I didn't feel comfortable going through with a scheduled induction. Just because that's what is always done, to me, it didn't feel like the right decision. To me, I wanted to wait it out and, you know, give the baby more time to grow. Of course, if things went wrong, yes, a scheduled induction, we will go ahead and do that. But for now, baby is fine, I'm fine. So I'm just going to continue forward with the plan until there is, you know, news, information that I just cannot look past. And so, like I said, everything continued to measure normal. The heart rate was always fine. The blood flow was always fine. I went to one appointment and I think the blood flow was a little bit off. The next appointment I went to, everything was fine. And so I didn't schedule it at 38 weeks. I told them that they could do a membrane sweep. I thought for sure I would go into labor. I didn't. So then I went back in again at I think 39 weeks. Did another membrane sweep. Once again, did not go into labor. Basically nothing was sending me into labor. Could not believe that I was still pregnant. You know, the fact that they were telling me before, let's just hope we can get you to 38 weeks, as in, let's hope the baby stays in until 38 weeks. And here I am, 40 weeks pregnant. 40. I am 40 weeks pregnant, and there is literally no sign that this baby is coming. Let me do my eyelashes. Oh, I forgot I was going to try this. I got this Tarte Quick Stick in Rose Gold Luster. Let's try it out. So, literally no sign that this baby is coming at all. He, she, whatever the baby was, not coming. And so 40 weeks, come and pass. 40 weeks and 1 day, come and pass. 40 weeks and 2 days, come and pass. Now I think I'm 40 weeks and 3 days. And I think starting at 40 weeks, or I don't know, 40 weeks in a couple of days, okay, hold up. So because I thought the baby was going to come early, I wasn't trying to bounce on a ball. I wasn't trying to do like prenatal yoga. Like I was like, legs crossed, this baby is staying inside. We will not let this baby come out, you know, because I want him or her to grow for as long as possible. Well, I guess I should have been doing that stuff because 40 weeks and baby never came. So then I start doing a bunch of YouTubes, like prenatal yoga, because I just couldn't sleep at night. I was just so uncomfortable. So I did, I don't know how many prenatal videos to, you know, get the baby in the correct position. I was bouncing on a ball, doing the figure eights. Well, 40 weeks and 3 days comes and passes, and then finally I started feeling contractions. I woke up my husband. I'm like, I think it's time for us to go. We get to the hospital, and sure enough, those contractions are coming. I get there, I was still intact, and the next thing I know, my water breaks. And so they admit me. I'm going through the whole thing, in labor, unmedicated. I told them, you know, no medication at all. I don't want the Stadol. I don't want anything. And then I had the baby. She ends up being a girl, and she wasn't tiny. She comes out, and I think she was 18, 16, 15, I don't know, above 10, above the 10th percentile. And I'm just like my heart, thank you God that she is perfectly healthy. First off, you know, like number one thing, thank you that she is perfect and healthy. Second thing, I went through so much stress. That was the worst pregnancy, which is so sad because it was my last. And it's not that I was like in pain all of the pregnancy, but it was like I didn't have morning sickness. I didn't have anything really crazy. But just how much stress I felt throughout that entire pregnancy was just the worst. I hated that pregnancy, which is so sad to say because it was my last pregnancy, and I mostly enjoy my pregnancies. I have really good pregnancies, of course, until the end, and then I get uncomfortable and I'm just like, get this baby out of me. But to have just gone through so much stress with the pregnancy and on top of school was just the worst. The worst for it to be my last pregnancy. I mean, yes, there's worse things, but you know, like, I wanted it to be an enjoyable pregnancy, and I feel like I was robbed of that because I was continually told that my baby was tiny, that hopefully she doesn't end up in the NICU, you know, hopefully she makes it to 38 weeks, hopefully everything is fine, you know, just constantly all of these fears coming into play. And I am so glad, so thankful that I trusted my gut, my mom's intuition, trusted in God, whatever it was, that I didn't allow them to induce me. I kept her inside and I allowed her to grow. And she was, my smallest baby was 6 pounds, 11 ounces at the time, which was my second son, John. That was the smallest baby. And he never had any complications. They never told me he was tiny. Well, my daughter Emily, she came out and she was 6 pounds, 10 ounces. She was 1 ounce smaller than her brother, who never had any complications, who they never, you know, went forward and told me that he was tiny. And so, like, I'm so glad, like I said, that she came out perfectly healthy, and she was a good sized baby, and she needed no treatments, she needed no NICU time, she needed absolutely nothing. She latched perfectly. She had the best latch out of all of my babies. Like, she just came out just so perfect. But oh my gosh, the stress that was put on me was terrible. To then, you know, have her come out perfect, which of course I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I'm glad that the stress amounted to nothing, and she's perfectly fine. And then now she's 4 months, so I just took her to her 4-month appointment. She's bigger than any of her brothers were. Like I said, I have tiny babies. All of my kids are really small. And as of right now, her height, which is crazy because her arms and legs were so tiny, her height was she was 83rd percentile. Like, you told me she was going to be itty bitty. You told me she was, you know, basically going to come out like a dwarf. And nope, she is just surpassing all of it. She's just perfect. And so, yeah. So that's what I was going through the last term, nursing a school career. So that was extremely stressful, and I'm so glad that she did not turn out to be an IUGR baby, but it just, I don't know, it just made me question just so much. And I don't know if other moms have had this experience where, you know, they tell you that your baby is measuring tiny and possibly IUGR, and come to find out that that's not the case. I feel like throughout your pregnancy, and really throughout anything, especially when it comes to your kids, you should not be afraid to ask questions. You should not be afraid to give pushback. I'm not saying not to trust doctors, because of course, you know, trust them. I am a nurse. I'm going to be trusting doctors, but do your due diligence. You know, research things on your own. Trust your intuition, trust your gut, trust what feels right for you. Of course, keep yourself safe, keep your baby safe. Nobody's perfect. No doctor is perfect. No nurse is perfect. You cannot take everything that they tell you as, you know, the end all be all. Like I said, I had one doctor who was like, absolutely no, you need to schedule your induction at 38 weeks. It's not safe. I had a certified nurse midwife, and she was the one who told me that I know best and to trust my body, and I'm the one who knows my baby and feels my baby moving and kicking. And so if I think that the baby is healthy and good inside, then I can follow that. But of course, it is at my own discretion. It is what I feel. And then I had my high risk doctor is one who had said, you know, hopefully we can get you to 38 weeks. And I mean, she was definitely for me having another VBAC and going naturally. But of course, she advised that I be induced at 38 weeks. But, you know, she had said that that is just a recommendation. But it's entirely up to me. And so I feel like I really appreciated that, because yes, a lot of these things that doctors tell you, they're recommendations. They cannot force you to do really anything, because it's your body. You have autonomy over what happens to you and your care. I think that you should, you know, question things. I think that you should do your own research. I think you should do what feels right for you, not just trust everything that everybody says, because you're the one that's, you know, going to be living with it. And so yeah, so that was my rant. That was my, I don't know, telling you what happened with my daughter. If that helped you in any way, if that gave you some confidence in any way, some reassurance, some peace, anything, I'm glad. If IUGR has never been an issue for you or your kids, then that is also great. I don't know, because I've never really shared that story and that stress. I just thought that I would. But if you noticed, I did not do my eyebrows because I actually just went and got them retouched, so I can't put any makeup on them for 2 weeks, I think. But I don't know if you can tell that they're kind of like peeling right now. How long has it been? It's been a little over a week at this point. Like I said, I used the Bye Bye foundation. I did the one size blurring primer, which I really do like. I ended up buying the full size of that. Right now I just have the tiny little trial size. The Pillow Talk Charlotte Tilbury, the pink pop one, and then I put the Tartelette blush palette on top of that. I used a Physicians Formula bronzer. I used the Rare Beauty liquid luminizer in Mesmerize. Actually, I didn't put anything on top. I used the Laura Mercier setting primer. What else? I used the Tartelette mascara. Oh, I used the Tarte Quick Stick, and I said I got the rose gold luster, so I did the rose gold luster on my eyelid, and then I used the brown eyeliner just a little bit on top. Another Tarte concealer. I used light medium sand. I used the Rare Beauty lip liner in Worthy with a buxom lipstick in Goddess Exhilarate. So that wraps up my story for you about my daughter. I hope that it was interesting to you. I hope that it was helpful if you're going through a similar situation and you're hearing that your child might have IUGR. I just hope that this video brought you some peace, some calm, some positive energy. Just because, I mean, I know what it's like to be on that side of things, and I'm glad to now be on the other side of it and to find out that my daughter is perfectly healthy. I hope and pray that you experience that same type of good news when your baby is born. And even with that, I know that there's other IUGR babies who, yes, are born small, but do not need any NICU time. They don't need any treatments. And so that's also a possibility. This was just my experience. This was just my story. And so if it helped you in any way, then I am more than happy that I shared this story with you. But I'm going to wrap this video up. So if you liked this video, I hope that you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.